As elite as the PlayStation 4 was, it is the previous console generation, so the conversation needs to shift. We must talk about the pros and cons of PC versus the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and even briefly about the PlayStation 5 Pro, which I will talk about near the end of the video. Now halfway through their life cycles, the PS5 has sold over 60 million units, while the Xbox exists. Though I adore my PS5, I will discuss these current-gen consoles and why even I think the pendulum has swung heavily towards PC gaming. For the current consoles, the draw is still there in many ways. They are incredibly convenient for gamers. They have a quick interface and SSD loading. You can literally be playing a game within 1 minute of turning on the console. Many games, just like how it has been for a long time, have first been optimized for console before being optimized for PC, resulting in console games that are much better at launch when compared to the PC version. And as we are seeing with some games, those PC versions may even take longer to release for a variety of reasons. Moreover, on top of playing games, the consoles record gameplay and even stream easily, with both features having really good quality. This allows gamers to create content and stream on a budget. The cost also remains lower than a PC with similar specs by a good margin. Then, like previous generations, both Xbox and PlayStation provide their own exclusive games. This has actually turned into a really great year for PlayStation 5 exclusives. Some of the games released are Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Rise of the Ronin, and Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, if you count it. Then there's the PlayStation and PC exclusives like Helldivers 2, Black Myth Wukong, Silent Hill 2, and others I'm sure I'm forgetting. Oh, and we can't forget about Astro Bot. So really, 2024 has been a fantastic year for PS5 exclusives, maybe even the best depending on the type of gamer you are. Xbox, well, not so much. But moving on, this is where the tide starts to turn in the console versus PC conversation. Unlike previous generations of consoles, Xbox and even the PS5 until recently have been providing first-party exclusive games at a much slower rate and without the variety that is needed. Even Sony said do not expect any huge first-party exclusives in 2024. Though the PS5 has third-party exclusives, it lacks the consistent first-party titles. Exclusive games helps consoles sell well. Nintendo Switch is a great example of a console that should be outdated, yet is still incredibly popular because it has so many exclusives, and is not trying to be a graphical powerhouse. Then there is the optimization discussion. Games are simply not being optimized well this generation, even ones specifically designed for consoles first. In part 1, an advantage consoles historically had is having games optimized for their platforms first, thus to some extent they'll often run well. That is becoming less and less common now. Though often these games are not being optimized for PC that well either, you can at least mess around with PC settings to make the game playable in some way. Games are also starting to be too unnecessarily demanding, which means good performance with good visuals is only possible on PC. Black Myth Wukong and Silent Hill 2 Remake are the most recent examples of this. To get a consistent 60 FPS with good visuals, you need a high-end PC because of how heavy these games are, such as Silent Hill 2 Remake using Unreal Engine 5 features that hammer performance. Even without a high-end computer, PC versions give more flexibility with settings and frame generation to help performance. Thus, this lack of optimization has created a large issue for consoles this generation. Games are not running as well, and it's hurting the attractiveness of consoles, no matter who is at fault. It's the devs. Now, you could wait for these devs to possibly patch and improve the game, but that's not always a guarantee. If that does not sound appealing to you, then the only other viable solution to this sort of problem is to run the game on PC. Unless the game is outright broken, then fine-tuning your settings on PC, even with older PC parts, is possible to find your own sweet spot in performance and visuals. Then we have the pricing. Unlike previous generations, the PlayStation 5 Slim is not much cheaper than the base model, and there have generally been no price reductions. Xbox has not even released a Slim model, and the prices have stayed the same. Instead of being cheaper, consoles are becoming more expensive in many different countries. Even the PS5 controller has increased in price everywhere. In previous generations, consoles would eventually reduce in price over the years, adding to their value. Unfortunately, this is truly just the economy we're in, and the reality is that console pricing is not going down. Thus, with all these reasons so far, it's difficult to recommend consoles. But that's enough about these current-gen consoles, because I need to talk about PC and its benefits, and ultimately why I have to recommend getting a PC as of now. My main argument? You get so much more out of PCs while no longer missing out on much by not having consoles. As mentioned earlier, there have not been a huge amount of PS5 exclusives, plus some even come to PC at the same time. And even if they don't come to PC at the same time, they eventually do, unless you're Bloodborne. Xbox releases all their games, exclusive or not, on PC as well. For Sony and Xbox, releasing games for console and PC increases their bottom line, sometimes by a huge margin. So for gamers, why spend money getting a console for exclusives when you can get it on PC as well? Then there are all the features and customization on PC. Mods are often available if needed, especially when there are issues with a game or when those pesky devs don't include certain options in their PC versions. Or maybe you want to play a mod that randomizes a game's playthrough. Unlike consoles, you also do not need to pay extra for playing online. You can also choose to play on mouse and keyboard or with a controller. It's up to you. As games become more graphically demanding, it's easier to switch out PC parts in order to keep up with those games as well. You can also prioritize what settings you want in a game. If it's an FPS, turn down those graphics for a higher frame rate. If it's a story-driven game, maybe you want to do the opposite and focus on better graphics settings. Along those same lines, you can choose from multiple different upscaling features as long as the devs implement them as options. This is nice because on console, you're stuck with whatever the devs want to use. Another technique, frame generation, is offered and it really helps improve performance as well, especially with GPUs that are older or not as powerful. All these settings can often be fine-tuned in the game, allowing for a large amount of customization. There are other features PCs have, but for now, I'll leave it here. Since console prices are not meaningfully being reduced, the difference between buying a decent PC versus a console is not as much as it used to be. Pre-built PCs are more expensive than building your own, but prices lately have been fair, especially if they're on sale. Of course, if you want to build your own PC, it would be much more worth it. If you wanted a PC that is more worth it than the current-gen consoles, then you would basically be looking at a price around this. Of course, these prices do not include peripherals like a keyboard, mouse, monitor, etc., but strictly comparing them to consoles, it might be more enticing for you. Now, if the conversation is buying a used PS5, which go around $300 to $350 versus buying used PC parts, that's a different story. Quite frankly, a current-gen console for around $300 is an incredible deal, but it all depends on the person, so I won't really talk about it. Moving on, before concluding this video, I did want to mention the PS5 Pro. As of now, too much is up in the air to discuss the Pro versus a PC, as the console is not released yet, and we have only seen limited footage of the console in action. Though the Pro is very expensive in the console space, if you're changing the discussion to the PS5 Pro versus a PC, that does change quite a few things. If the Pro can match the power of an RTX 4070, then it may be a viable option for many looking for 4K gaming for cheap. But again, until it's actually released, there's not much to discuss. Thus, if I'm being logical, gaming on a PC, even more of a budget build, gives players a lot of freedom and options, so it should be the way to go. Compared to this current gen, PC seems much more attractive. Plus, with Xbox releasing their games on PC and PS5 releasing many games on PC, gamers are not really missing out on much by playing on PC. However, I do have one last thing to say. Personally, even given all these facts, I have had an incredible amount of fun with my PS5 this generation. I love playing games leisurely in my living room, and gaming without having to worry about many software or hardware issues. Consoles offer that convenient experience, and that's something that cannot be taken for granted. I have a great PC, but hooking that up to a TV in my living room always has problems. Even while making this video, my PC randomly stopped working and would not turn on. Then after a few hours, it randomly turned on by itself and everything has been fine since. I don't know what the problem was, and I certainly don't know what the solution was. All of this is to say that many gamers want that easy, convenient experience. And if you're that type of gamer, then going with a console is the right decision. Of course, PCs are objectively better in many ways, and gaming on PCs is logically the correct choice that should be recommended right now. But if you're the type of gamer who wants to game on a console, you're not wrong for that, because that's really what I love doing. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.